The old man leant forward, resting his bony arms on the table. He looked carefully at the others, his two sons and brother, trying to guess their hidden doubts. Is it true that Lady Magda will be in the festival? Yes, father, the oldest son said. She is to lead the parade at the festival. The members have all been informed. All will be ready, his brother softly rumbled. And our friends? My youngest, do they suspect? My spies report nothing, father. No one suspects. Youngest quickly dropped his gaze from his father's eyes. Very good. Then at the festival, we will proceed. Hello and welcome to the Battle and Barrow and another D&D campaign recap. I am playing the Valve Society, but I am playing my own extended version of it. Before we get into that, we should cover the players. Last week, Galfenwith and Walker leveled up. Walker just levels up as normal. Now, Galfenwith has read about something in her forbidden book. That's part of her backstory. She's read about an old sort of legend about dragon lords and dragon riders in the land. And she's joined the Wizards Guild so she could study this, research this, which she has, and use Newt to find a dragon egg, and she has going to be multi-classing as a wizard and a dragon rider. Now here you're asking, dragon rider, what kind of class is that? Now if you've seen my recent review about the Games Masters books of, it is a class in here, so we're going to be running this and having fun with this. So she now gains, and we sort of played this and made a, not extended, but got a bit where she explained that she's been searching for a dragon egg, finds one. And so now she has got a red dragon wormling, or a ruby dragon wormling, called Draco. Also, in this game, I don't encounter any combat, so I'm going to have to sort of make this interesting without detailing exciting sword fighting. No, I'm terrible at that anyway, aren't I? So yes, this was a very story-based RPG heavy. In fact, as a DM, I didn't have a heck of a lot to do. The odd NPC, I was rolling on random charts, things like real hour generation, food generation, stuff like that. Most of this was down to the interaction of my players, and I thoroughly enjoyed this as a session. It's probably been one of my favourites in a long time. As one that I'm sitting here trying to recap, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for me, a bit difficult. I think it's going to be one of those that was fun to play and probably one that was fun to watch in its entirety, but to recap it, very dull. So that will be, the full session is available to patrons, so you can go and check that out. I guess the first thing I can think of mentioning is, it happened last week as well, but I didn't mention it in the recap, I will mention it now. I've progressed the world. Archduke Stefan is now cut all ties with his homeland and is declaring himself King Stefan. So there's going to be a coronation in the near future. As such, the town criers and heralds are in all the cities announcing that there will be a tournament. I'll put the full clip in here for you to listen to how I've done this. If you've seen the film Jabberwocky by Terry Gilliam, that's what my heralds in my world are inspired by. I've even sort of pilfered the sound effects from that film for what the heralds make. All you keep hearing every day is the town crier, the heralds. I go Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, here it be known on the coronation of King Stephen the First.
He's been drinking again.
There will be a tournament in every major city, including our beloved Port Black Sands, headed by Lord Azure.
What's the crowd's reaction so far?
Kind of just walking past, going, little peasants, they're like, well, I'm not entering the tourney, am I? I've got a stick, I'm not doing the joust with a stick.
I can earn some money picking up some luck.
Entrance, please sign up at the town hall. The The next order of business is to get our party together. Last session, just 2 of them had an adventure on their own, so they've got to get back with Anerifol, who has been busy setting up his Thieves Guild. He sends them a message saying, "You can find me at the Fisherman's Fiend. You will know what to say when you get there." It's a tavern, they gather, but they've not heard of it. They haven't come across it yet in the city. So the first port of call is to go to another tavern to ask where this tavern is. They do this, and the landlord has heard of it. They're in the Harbour District, and it is, of course, what was known as the Vulgar Goblin has been shut down, reopened as the Fisherman's Fiend. So they go there. We have some role playing of some beer drinking. I rolled up. That chart will be available on for patrons. There's a lot for patrons after this video. They make their way to the Vulgar Goblin, now the Fisherman's Fiend. They try and open the door, but it's locked. So they knock, and the hatch on the door slides back, and a voice says, "A storm is coming." And that perplexes them for a while until they remember, oh yes, a tempest rises, because that is the name of their Thieves Guild gang they're sort of setting up. With that, the door opens, and it's Mr. Tibbs, or as we called him, I used the model of Hugo for this, and we called him, so Hugo is in our game now. We call him Hugo Tibbs is his full name, so that is brilliant. So he's actually now in the campaign. There's reunions going on and what have you, and this is where a large amount of the roleplay comes from. Anerifol realises he's maybe getting a bit dark. There was that thing where he chopped off a merchant's hand. Yeah, and so there's a bit of back and forth, talking where they've been, getting... It's difficult to describe, but great to have watched and take in the session, and great to have been part of for the role-playing session. But let's get to the story, shall we? Rannoch, Fast Hand, knocks on the door. He is the master. He is a master thief. He is the head master thief in charge of all the others, second only to the guild masters themselves. He comes in to reprimand Anerifol for his actions. The Merchants Guild has complained to Lord du Jour, who in turn has sent emissaries to the Thieves Guild, because there's this uneasy sort of symbiotic relationship in this city, how it all works. The Thieves Guild sort of have free reign, but certain people are off topics, and if they overstep their bounds on stealing things and their actions. So yes, so there was a fine that the Thieves Guild had to pay, and a bit of grovelling. So Rannoch is a bit annoyed by this, by Anerifol's actions and the Merchants Guild actions. Just recently, the Merchants Guild haven't been paying their, I called it protection money. It's a fee paid so their properties don't get raided by the thieves of the Thieves Guild. But some of them are being a bit lax and paying a bit late. Sometimes it's not the full amount. And then for them to have then gone to Lord du Jour after this, he is a bit put out by this. So it's a 2-for-1 deal. It's one to get Anerifol to pay for the cost what the guild had to pay, and 2 to teach the merchants a lesson. He has a job for Anerifol. As part of the coronation celebrations, a noble family is holding a big masked ball. This noble in particular, his wife, has a very rare jewel that she got. It's called the jewel, the Star in the East. It's said to have magical properties. There's all different rumours to it. It's said to be cursed, said to be magical properties. I like introducing true rumours and false rumours, as an old school DM should. So there's contradiction of information here. Does it heal you? Does it curse you? Could be both. And so his wife only wears it at certain special occasions, such as this. And so Rannoch wants it lifted. He announces that this noble has hired wizards to time stasis lock the safe that effectively makes it impervious. So breaking in and pickpocketing is probably out of the question. He says, but it needs to be lifted that night from the ball. So how they're going to do this, I don't know. I am like Professor DM from Dungeon Craft, more of a conflict creator than a story-based person. I have no idea how they're going to do this. The way I'd probably do it, and Rannick sort of suggests or hints at, there's different ways you could do it. You could just go pretty much brutal force straight on, probably not good. You could pretend to be a craftsman, I guess, because there's lots of crafts trade going on. That could work. But the way I suggest, and I think that's the way they're going, is they're going to get themselves pretended to be guests of the ball. So how are they going to do this? I have no idea. And they sort of plan and plot against themselves for a while. And then Anirafol announces they should go to the... so I want to go to where the nobles live, and most of the houses are in the garden district. Now I thought he wanted to scope out the house where the heist is going to take place. This is actually in the merchants district. The family itself is Sturchenza. They sort of asked me where do most of the nobles have their houses. I answered the garden district, and I was just about to say but House Sturchenza is in the merchants district. That's where you should probably concentrate, and they just carried on, so I let them do it. They go to the garden district. There is a bit of bad blood between Ranger and the Anirafol when they're looking for a irregular. This is the street urchins, and Anirafol goes to call one over that he sees playing in the garden, who ignores him. But then when Walker calls him over, he comes over. Now, I don't know if you remember last season when there is Bargo the Wheeler, who Anirafol sort of, not shortchanged him, he didn't steal him any money, but he sort of made it look like he was getting money when he was just returning his own money back to the urchin. And so what's happened now is words got round that Anirafol isn't trustworthy and not a good boss. Whereas Walker, on that occasion, greased up Bargo's wheels because they were stiff and rusty, and fixed his cart for him, so he's got a reputation of being the one to trust. So after last session, I happened during the last session, so if you hear any noise, my cat is rustling about in the background. Don't have cats when you're trying to record. Yes, so anyway, so the regulars follow Walker. This causes a bit of tension between them both, and it looks like there's going to be a standoff, but it doesn't quite come to that, luckily. With that, they come across a noble's house, and it is the House d'Argo. And I should point out that I'm changing the house names from the Veld Society, which I'm running, to something different. So if you have played Veld Society, this is Vorloy in that, but this is in my world, this is d'Argo. And what Anirafol does, he's got a changey ring, disguise ring, so he used that to change himself to someone that looks like where they sort of originate from. They're from across the seas, and pretends to be a place from where they come from. They're a relatively new nobility themselves, so they want to put themselves back to where they used to be. So he sort of disguises them as someone that from their homeland. They come from a distant place originally, and knocks on the door and tries to get entrance in. He sort of gets Walker to punch him, which diffuses the previous situation, and so he looks like he's been roughed up. He manages to get let in, good persuasion, good role playing, gets let in, but the head of the household isn't in, but the daughter is. This is Mariana, who is going to be Lucia if you're playing Veld Society, but we've done it as Mariana. And he sweet talks and it's nothing too, not as bad as where I thought this was going. I do have to admit, in situations like this in the past in my games, a little bit of me's died, but it didn't go that way. It was just very good, very wholesome. He sweet talks her, woos her, and she has a spare ring right to the party, which she gives to him. He sort of pretends to be a lower nobility from their homeland, so that works. So they've got it in. he's got an invite. He can then use that to forge sort of other invites for Gelfenwith, because she could get entrance. Walker is going to pose as his servant, so that's him in. That's both of them in. Now, another thing I should point out is Gelfenwith is a member of the Wizards Guild now, as she did last week, and that one of the things I got from that, I decided the Wizards Guild would have, is they can attend functions above their normal social status, such as this. I thought that's where they might go with this, but they haven't, so that means she can be undercover. It's a costume ball, that's good. So yeah, that is the heist, not planned out yet, but that's they're in. Now they need to study up what this jewel is, what it looks like, so they can, I think they want to make a copy of it, so I'm going to see the forger, so that can be studied in the Wizards Guild. That's where that comes into, because sages, for a while this thing was part of a nobility, a different nobility, and it was said to have magical properties, so wizards and sages were interested in it, and for a while it dropped out of all knowledge. It just sort of disappeared and has recently reappeared, and as such there's been much study about it recently. So the Wizards Guild does have information about it, pictures of it, what it looks like, so they can potentially pull this off, I guess. I don't know how it would work. In things like this, I'm making a note of what they're doing and rolling chances behind the scenes, and we'll see how this unplans next session. Hopefully, I think the heist won't be this one. So we're back. They got 4 days to do this, by the way, Rannoch says, because that's when the ball will be done. And because of the coronation, the Lord du Jour announces a festival the next day, and that happens, and that takes part. There is a procession, and they watch the procession happen. The procession works its way from the Garden District down into the Harbour District, where a effigy is thrown into the harbour, part of Blackstone tradition. This year, the procession, they really have a festival around this time anyway, but this year it's a double whammy due to the coronation, so it's a wee bit early. But Lady Magda of House Cabassis is going to be the lady of the night, I guess. No, I don't want to use that word, that term, do I? Each time there is a festival in town, one of the ladies of the noble houses leads the procession. This festival, it's down to Lady Magda of House Cabassis. And so she is at the head of the festival. It works its way from the Garden District down to the harbour, where they throw some effigies and what have you into the harbour waters. It passes by the Fisherman's Fiend, and our players are watching this take part. It's a big crowd, everyone's having fun, everyone's drinking and eating and taking part in frivolities and what have you, when there is an altercation between members of what would turn out to be House Hadrick and the procession led by House Cabassis. At this same time, green livery guards from House Diarco try and defuse the situation because it's getting a bit heated. An Aerophil steps in just as an old man of part of House Cabassis takes a scepter and is about to swing it at one of the House Hadrak members, and he manages to grab the hand and stop that from happening, and diffuses the situation. House Cabassis, the person who had the scepter, gives him a most evil look, and it all carries on. The guards in green livery of House Iago thank him and just say nobles always fight in a squadron amongst themselves, but I think he's made an enemy of House Cabassis and potentially House Hadrick. They got in the way of that, but or maybe they've made friends with House Hadrick to stop one of their members from getting beaten. See how that plays out. Anyway, it ends with they themselves have a mini party in their bar as the festival continues, and I think that's where we'll leave this. Hopefully I've tried to make this interesting. It was interesting, as I said, playing it, and I think the full playthrough's interesting, but to recap something where it's all very heavily roleplay and story and setup, that's what this is really about, setting up the heist. Very difficult. But yeah, thanks for watching. Some of you may recognise some beats within this recap as well. If you're interested, House Hagrak is Radu in Velvet Society, Cabassis is Tornescu, and Thiago is Vorloy. So just for those who have played Velvet Society, if you haven't, you're in for a real treat with this storyline. So let's see what happens next time, which should be the heist, the costume party heist. Until then guys, stay safe, take care, bye bye.